All right. Hello, and welcome back for um, a new episode. So the second episode for the day, where we will be continuing our build. Just checking on the stream very quickly. Give me 1 second. Okay, no, we should be good. Yeah, sorry, the interface was telling me that we're offline, but that is not the case, which is great, but strange. Okay, we're good to continue. So thank you very much for joining. What is happening here? Yeah, okay, we're good to go. All right, so yeah, again, welcome back for another stream for today, where we will continue to build our application. Now, let's do a very quick recap where we got to in the previous episode and where we will be continuing this time around. Sure. Yes. Okay. So let's get to the desktop. All right. So we continued from the UX expert, where we ended the episode last week. We completed the UX expert part. Then we started the architect persona, right? And we went through their workflow, which isn't super long, but there is quite a lot of work. So planning wise, there isn't all that much, because all that the architect creates is basically this architecture.md that describes how the architecture should be upheld. So basically, it puts the SQL scripts for creating the database that we will need for Supabase to have our database and like persistent data. The front end architecture, just a very high level. So the frameworks that we're using, the minimum versions, the general layout of the application, as well as the backend architecture that we have chosen, and putting in place some access policies for our database. So who can read what and these kind of things. And then we have a general diagram. Again, we installed the Markdown Mermaid reader before. So if we look at the preview, like the actual output of this MD file, we are now currently here in the editing mode. If we exit the editing mode, let me just make this a bit bigger. You can see that this mermaid view creates this diagram, right? So this is, of course, very nice to look at if you're going to be putting this in your architecture. Like if you're going to publish this even for yourself, if you look at this project months down the line, a couple of months down the line, and you're like, okay, how did this work? And it shows you the things that are so it has color coded a couple of things, which is also quite interesting. All right, so let's exit from there. So the architecture document was put in place, but also the architect did already go ahead and configure all of our dependencies. So it installed all of the libraries that we need, and it created the document that also describes how you could deploy this project for yourself elsewhere. So this is very important to have as a README file that you can upload to your repository and GitHub, which will also be which we will start to use very soon, so that we can get these things up and running. All right. Now, where did we end the previous episode? So last time we ended here, where the architect was asking us, okay, so I've created the general like architecture document. We have the required packages installed through npm. So what should we do next, right? So the next steps that it advises is to create a Supabase project and to configure the database using this schema. And that is exactly what we're going to do. It says also to update the .env.local file with the Supabase credentials, which we will also do. And then it's like, okay, start building the first user story, so user account creation, right? Now, it also says that, okay, for the fundamentals are now solid. This is what I've already done, which is great. So it's like, okay, would you like to proceed with setting up authentication components for the first user story? And I'm like, yes. And this is where we ended the last episode. I would want to do that. However, I would like to set up Supabase first. So sign up, um, get an account, set up a project, and then get the keys in my project so that we can actually test this if we want. So that's exactly what we're going to do. Actually, what I've already done. So if we go to our browser, not this one, but not this one. So all I've done is I've signed up for a new account. And this is completely free. So when you sign up for Supabase, you just go to supabase.com, you sign up for an account, you enter your email address and it shows a password, then you verify your email address. After that, it will prompt you. There is like a user guide to set up your first project. When you set up your project, it will also ask you to choose a location for the storage of your database. So this will highly depend on where you are located in the world or where the people will be located that will be using your application. I just chose Singapore because that's what is chosen for me, which is fine. And the difference of like selecting the location will be in terms of performance. So if your users are mostly based out of Europe, for example, you would preferably choose a database that is located in Europe so that your users, when they interact with the database, so get their account, log in, update their like user information, that the response from the server will be very, very quick because there is a very short distance to reach the data center. If you're like in Asia, you can choose Singapore or anything else. If you're in the US, which select the US-based database location. So this will kind of depend on your requirements. So here, this is the first window that you will see after you create a project. On this page, so if you scroll down, which I won't do, you will have your database URL as well as your API key. Okay, your public API key. So you need these to authenticate yourself through the application. So when your application tries to reach Supabase and access the database or run any kind of script, it needs to provide this information for authentication purposes, right? So this is something that I will now go ahead and put in place. So where does that go? If we go back to our code editor and we go to env.local, right? You see that we have here 2 entries for Supabase, right? Which it has already predefined for us. So this is going to be the environment variable key. So everywhere where we need the project, like the database URL, we will just enter this, right? So this will then get the value that is here automatically, because there is a specific string that will tell the application that, okay, this is a secure variable that we're storing in this key. And then based on an entry that we'll create later when we host our application on Vercel, it will get that from a secure location that is stored on the like hosting platform so that it knows what is the URL. The same will go for the anon key and for all of your environment variables. So none of these will actually be stored in our code. None of these will be available to the users. So the users should never be able to access these. And this is why also in the previous episode, I said, okay, so our .ignore file, which basically is here to tell Git when we submit our code to like to the branch or to the current commit and send this over to GitHub, that all of these files that are here inside of the git ignore should be ignored from Git in general, right? So Git will never submit these as a part of the current build. They will never get uploaded to to the repository in GitHub, because again, we don't want any of these. So not all of these are, of course, like private. So the environment.local or .production or .development or however you want to call it will house information that we never want to send to any kind of cloud like project management solution. But there is also a lot of configuration that we don't need to publish, right? So there are many files in here that are just to manage dependencies or just there for development purposes, right? And we don't need to publish these because it will depend on the environment where we'll be hosting these. So it's already keeping this up to date with all of the things that it's already building to make sure that all of the things that we shouldn't be uploading to our repository as a part of the project build, that these are excluded. All right. So having said that, let me populate this very quickly, and I'll get back to you once that is done. Okay, so having said that, let me. Okay, so I'm just gonna get the information from the project to the environment variables document, and I'll have to be very careful to not show any of that information on stream. So that's why I've switched to the presentation for the moment, just so that I can get these keys and put them in the file. Key. Okay, so yes. Okay. So security options. All right, all right. And get my API key. Okay, so that is now in place. Okay, cool. And mm, okay, we're back. So I added the URL as well as the API key to the .env.local file. And I'll just create a repository very quickly. I'm going to make this one private. So sure. Mm, mm, mm. Yeah, so it says great repository names are short and memorable. How about sturdy broccoli? Yes, sounds amazing. So no, so let's call it humble words, social, and yeah. So the repository name has to be unique for this account. So as long as you call it something unique, then that's fine. So visibility is going to be private because I don't want to, at the moment, I don't want to share this with anyone who would visit my account. So we're going to leave it to private. I won't add the README file because we already have our own. I won't add the .ignore file because again, we already have one in our project. So these will be sent over anyway. A license, I will not bother with at the moment. I will assign a license later. This is a private repository anyway, so no one is going to be able to look into it for the moment. And I will set this repository as our remote repo in our project, right? So it says here that okay, if you want to create this again, we will initiate Git, so we'll do the Git init ourselves. That's not really a problem. We will do the commit also ourselves. That's also not really a problem. So this is the line that you really need. You can also just copy all of these and do them, but I don't like to just add an empty MD file. We already have one. We're going to commit the entire project as a whole to start with anyway. So for now, yeah, you can also just do this one, which is the thing that we really want. All right. So the keys are in place, and it's like, okay, we want to continue with setting up the user authentication. So we already did what it asked, right? So it was like, okay, create a Superbase project and configure the database using this, right? Update building. Okay, so I'm gonna tell it this because I want to make this as clear as possible for you guys watching. I'm going to ask it what to do with this file. So this one, basically what is asking is that we take this and we copy it and paste it inside of the SQL console inside of Superbase. But I will ask it to provide specific instructions for it. All right. Great. I have created a Superbase account and project. I've also added the URL and API key to the .env local file. Can you tell me how to configure the DB in Superbase using the it's a hashtag schema. No, it's already actually taken it here as context, but it's okay. And then it will tell us basically what it's expecting us to do with it. So yeah, it's linked twice because I added it again, but that's fine. Okay. So this is also just to make it clear that if you don't know exactly what it means when it tells you something, you can just ask it and it should provide you with very specific guide. So Perfect. Now that you have a Superbase project and the credentials are here, here's to configure your database using the schema. So setting up your database. Okay. Access your SQL editor. Again, this is in the interface, which I'll show you in a bit. Go to your Superbase project dashboard, navigate to SQL editor on the left bar and click new query, and then you can just paste everything. To execute the schema, copy the entire content of your schema, paste it in the editor and click run, right? The script will create all of these tables like we've already explained before. It will create the trigger functionality, and then it will set up the row level security and all necessary foreign keys relationships, right? You verify the setup. After running the script, you should do the following. So you should see that the tables are created, which I'll show you in a second. Policies are applied. So you should see that there are policies in place, which we can see in the authentication policies. And that there are no errors when you run the script. Optional, add initial spaces. So it says, since the MVP launches with predefined admin created spaces, you might want to add some initial data. So it's like, okay, this will be data that will be entered into our database after we've already set it up, so that we already have some data that can be pulled from the database, and we wouldn't, like when we launch our app locally for testing, that is not going to be completely empty without any kind of information in there, right? So it's like, okay, you can test the connection by going into the project folder, which we're already in there. And yeah, it's also a bit confusing that we basically have two folders with identical names. So the folder where it is and the folder where it's residing, but okay, we'll manage that. And run npm run dev. So this again runs your development environment so that you can launch the app locally on your computer and be able to access it through localhost semicolon port 3000 so that we can see our application running. And yeah, the application should now be able to connect to your Superbase database without errors. Troubleshooting, if you get any permissions, it's like, okay, you have to look at these and make sure that these are correct. Okay, so we'll follow this and go ahead and do our deployment. So what we are going to do is inside of this file, we're just going to copy everything. These are comments, but we can also take these along. These won't actually be executed as such. So if we go to our humble devs and we go to our SQL editor, we can paste all of this in. And you can see that the comments persist as well. So all of these are grayed out. So only the parts of the SQL language are currently highlighted to show us the things that will get executed. So yeah, we have an untitled query, which is fine, and we're just going to run this. Now, there is a way to do this through the project, so we can also run this in the project itself using the CLI tool for Superbase, and then through the CLI tell it, okay, this is the schema that you need to run, and the CLI tool will run this remotely. I'm just doing it in this way so that I can show you how it all comes together within Superbase itself, the interface, so that you're not doing everything kind of remotely and then not understanding how to navigate and use Superbase in general if you want to make any tweaks or changes later down the line. So we're going to run this. Okay. So the result is maybe not very exciting, but is exactly what we want, right? So it says success, no rows returned. So there are no errors. There is nothing that we've provided it that threw an error or generated any kind of like action that we need to take. So that's perfect. That's all we need to do. And all we need to do now is go to our table editor. And we see that we have basically all of our tables are here. And we can also have a look at, yeah, so the schema is public, which is fine. And then if we click on any of the tables, we can see that currently they, of course, don't have any kind of data in them because they were just created, right? And we can also go to our database, which will show us all of the tables. So basically everything that's in here. So all of the tables that you see here, our database will show us a diagram of all of these different databases and how these connect together. So all of this logic was, of course, generated by the LLM, and it starts with how do you call it? So you have all of the different spaces, all of the different things that we want to follow, and it kind of created logic that it thinks is good to manage all of these things independently. Because we have profiles, so these will house all of the user profiles. We have follows, so you have your follower IDs and whatnot, which has its own like separate database, but it's connecting to other databases as well, right? So this is connecting to the profile, but it's connecting to posts as well. It's connecting to subscriptions if there are any. It's connecting subscriptions that are then connecting to spaces. So all of this logic of how our application should work in the backend, all of this was already defined on our behalf, and the SQL for this was written. Now, if I have any specific idea, or if I see that there are things that I would want to track that currently aren't here, I can just ask the agent to to alter or just provide it input regarding what else I want, and it will generate a schema. Sorry, I lost the word. So it will create a schema evolution. So it will create a new schema that only has the things that change, right? So it will either alter an existing table, or it will create a new one, set up more rules and stuff like that, right? So just to show you how this all comes together. And again, this was super simple. At the end of the day, we just came to our SQL editor, we entered this code. This will also persist here, so this will not go away after you run it. You can create multiple scripts. You can keep these in here. You can also just delete this one and like run a new one if you want. For the moment, we'll just leave this for what it is. Going back, so okay, let's continue. So it says, okay, you currently don't have any data in your database, which is very correct. And here it says, okay, let's already put some spaces in there. So it generated this automatically. I didn't like give this any input. So it's like, okay, it generated a space that's called Tech Talk, which is discussion about technology, programming, and digital innovation. Mindful living, great. Creative corner, writing, music, and creative expression. Okay, we might want to remove the music from there, but okay. Learning hub, all about education, tutorials, and knowledge sharing, and then community news. Yeah, this is fine. So I'm happy with this. All I will do is just gonna remove the music from there, and we're gonna add this as well. So we're going to come in here. I want to create just a new snippet. I'm just gonna paste this in here, and I will just get rid of this part. Actually, yeah, okay. Let's leave it in for now. We can always get rid of it later. So we're gonna run this, and again, we're looking for a success. Nothing was returned, which is great. So now, if we go to our, so this is in the spaces, right? Public.spaces table. So if we go to our tables, because the database overview won't show us any content. If we go to the tables, and we go to our spaces, we have entries now, right? So the entries have the names that were defined, have the description that was defined, right? Has a timestamp of when this was created, and it has an ID, right? So these IDs are sequential, which is perfectly fine. And if there is anything else that we would like to track about these, we can add tables and define these. Again, we would use this by creating a new schema script that will alter the logic for that specific table. All right. Great. So test the connection. Once your database is set up, everything is cool. So now we can just come in here and say that, okay, we're going to npm run dev. Okay, so this runs successfully, localhost 3000, which we can visit over here. Okay, great. So our application currently doesn't look like much, right? Because nothing is actually implemented. So all we did is the architect previously just installed the dependencies, so all of the libraries and all of the packages that we need from npm, but it didn't actually do anything else, right? So it's this just shows that our project runs, right? That it's not broken, that the Next.js environment is functional, that our backend is working, that our front end is working, because we can see this, right? And because Vercel is the company that makes Next.js, you see here that there is a button for deploy now that will immediately bring you to Vercel for hosting your project, which is great. That's what we're going to do at some point, but we still need to build our project before we deploy it, right? So going back to our editor, so okay, we run this. This works just fine. So the application should now be able to connect to your Supabase database without errors. Okay, now we can't really validate this at the moment because we're not pulling anything from our database, right? Um, which is fine. We're just gonna tell it that, but it's not something that we wanted to act upon right now because we stopped at the point where it's like, okay, I've put everything in place for your backend to be functional and your front end. Do you want me to continue with setting up the user flow, right? So how can users log in to our application, which is exactly what we want. But it's now assuming that just because we will run dev our application, that it will now pull information from Supabase, which it won't, because at the moment there is nothing in our app here that tells Supabase that it needs to deliver data to be displayed anywhere, right? Because again, we don't really have an interface at the moment. Okay, great. I've done all of the uh, all of the provided actions. I have also run dev, and it shows us the Next.js starter page. I'm assuming, as we currently have not yet built our pages, that there is no request actually getting data from Supabase, right? I'm also just going to take a quick screenshot just to show it that this is what I'm seeing. It's always good to provide it all of the context that you can so that it knows exactly what you are getting. So most probably it will tell me that yes, this is correct, and we still have to start building it, which is exactly what we expect. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So it's like, okay, your Supabase connection is configured but not being used. Yes, we don't have any components yet. Yes, that is exactly the case, which is fine. So it's like building. Okay, so it's already going to start building the authentication pages. So set up the layout to provide wrap the app with our query provider, create authentication pages, sign up and log in, build user profile creations, and test the full authentication flow. Let me start by setting up the root layout to include the query provider and then create authentication pages. Okay, fine. So it's like, okay, it wants to run the chat CN latest build and add button, card, form, input labels. Okay, please go ahead. Now, I would almost think that this part would ideally be already done by the developer agent, but this is considered a part of just setting up um, the fundamentals of the application, so to speak, right? So just like the wrappers, the backend, the front end, making sure that everything is connected to each other in a logical sense before all of the other tasks are given to the developer agent. Okay, so we've allowed this. It has already completed. It doesn't seem that it has picked up on that. It is already, I mean, everything is already there. I don't see why it would try to run it again. I'm just going to skip it. Hopefully it will pick up on the fact that the script already ran. I'll continue that. No, no. Yeah, okay. I'll continue that. Now let me create an application page. Okay. The okay. So now that I'll start building. Okay, sure. It's now going to get up the authentication sign up. So it's creating the logic for it. So it's creating the pages that we need to actually get users to sign up. We haven't yet allowed users to sign up, at least not deliberately. We'll have to look at that in just a second. Okay. Sure. Okay, so while it's doing that, let's have a quick look at our authentication. So within Supabase, and this is the reason why we're like using it, because it's quite fully featured. So we can go to authentication, and we can go to the login providers, and in here it's already by default allowing people to sign up. And the sign up is enabled for email only for the moment. And we can add others as well, right? So we can turn this off if we don't want anyone to be able to sign up. We can create a user for ourselves using the backend. So we can just go into the database and just create an account for ourselves. But for now, I mean, this is not published anywhere, so we might as well just leave it on. The confirmation of email address is also very important. You would preferably want people to confirm their email if they provide one, so they can't like use like a random email address or an email address that they can't access to sign up to your application. But also, as you can see here, there's a large number of providers that you can add. Now, none of these will work out of the box. So if you want people to be able to sign up using their phone number, you're going to have to set up a service to allow for that. If you want people to sign up with an Apple ID, fine, but you will have to like go into the development environment of Apple, and there are instructions provided. So if you want to enable this, you will get the instructions on how to do that. The same if you want people to be able to sign up with their Google account. You can enable it, but then it tells you, okay, you need to provide your client ID and client secret that you need to set up yourself with Google before coming in here. So you will have a unique identifier that you use to authenticate people. So it's not your authentication, but this is like a sort of a developer account that you'll set up that will allow you to authenticate people using their own Google account, if that makes sense. And this is how most of the services that you use nowadays. So if you go to any kind of a new service and you need to sign up, sometimes they show you that you can like log in with your Google account or Apple account or um, GitHub, for example, because we use that as well, right? And this is how it works. So these providers also provide ways for developers to allow their users to log in using their own credentials through their service. But you need to set up your own kind of keys and identifiers in order for your application to be able to submit these requests to the authentication provider. I hope that made sense. But we'll configure that as we go along as well. So now it's like, okay, it wants to create a sign up page. So all what it's doing now, it's basically creating all of the pages that are required, so that we have a landing page, so that our users can actually sign up, right? So we should be able to provide an email address and a password and be able to sign up to the application. There won't be anything there yet, but at least we will have the Supabase configuration in place. So we have a database that currently will have all of the different tables that we want for our application, as well as the ability for people to sign up to our app. And by now, you would have seen that there is quite a lot that is created for us here, right? So all of these, so if we just close out docs, everything that's within Humble Words here, all of this was written by the AI agents that we've been using throughout the series, and this is the superpower that is now at your fingertips, basically. Where before, even if you are a developer and you've developed applications before, it would still take you a significant amount of time to like put everything in place, write out all of the scripts. And to be very honest, a lot of the scripts that AI writes, these snippets already exist, right? So we already saw when we were dealing with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript that you have autocomplete features. So you can just go in your code editor, you say, okay, I want to have an if statement that does this, and it will like already provide you with a template where you only need to change a couple of values. So it's not that AI is doing something that you absolutely couldn't do before in terms of like writing code, but the fact that you can just instruct it what you want and it will plan out and go and like lay out the structure for you and write all of the script on your behalf. This is the game changer, basically. And it's still not as I mean, I wouldn't say that it is easy to the point of like we did, for example, with Lovable. We just gave it a prompt and it created a front end. So onboarding, yeah, sure. So if we go to our Lovable page here, it was here. So if we go to Lovable, right? So this is the thing that it has generated for us. And we go back to the application view. This isn't an app, right? So this is nothing more than just front end, right? So it just created it. The favicon is like the icon on the browser, which is of course going to be Lovable. Other than that, there isn't any functionality here. So it has created components, which are like very simple. Again, that's perfectly fine. So these are all kinds of components that you can just plug into your application, basically. It has a bunch of hooks. It has created a couple of pages that house all of the information, but all of this is static, right? So none of this is in a database. None of this is hosted anywhere at the moment. And none of this is actually functional. So it is just creating the visual appeal or how the application should look like, but none of these buttons are going to do anything. This is just here for looks. But you can, for example, within Lovable, say that, okay, I want to host this on Supabase, which you can. So it will even create, like set up everything on your behalf through automations. You can also store this in GitHub. But again, even if you would do that, it would kind of dictate how your project is created, the technologies that it uses, and not give you the flexibility to choose that yourself. Again, if that's what you're looking for, then by all means go ahead. But as we discovered when we did the price comparison between this and something like Windsurf or like Cursor, these tools are quite expensive and they give you nowhere near the flexibility that a proper IDE would, right? So here we have at least choices of different models that we can use. But yeah. So it's been working on this for quite a while. We know. Please continue. So here you can choose a couple of agents, not that many, but at least you have some options. And as we saw with Windsurf, which is only $5 a month more, it gives you a whole lot of choice, and still a decent amount of tokens per month. That you can also expand. So you can, if you run out of tokens, even on Windsurf, you can say that, okay, I want to buy additional tokens for like $10 to be able to continue working using my premium requests. But also, many models on Windsurf are completely free to use. So even if you run out of tokens using the paid ones, you can just continue your work with one of the free ones, which there are great ones that are free at the moment. So it's okay. Let me read the entire file to see the structure. Let me replace the entire file content. Sure. So this is the main page. That is basically this page, right? So it's like, okay, everything that's here we don't need. This is just like template. And it's want to run dev again, which is fine. So let's see. Is run dev running? No, run dev is broken. So it will see that, okay, there are a bunch of errors in here. Let's fix these. JSON could not read error such file. Okay, so we're missing a file. Are we in the wrong directory? Okay, seems that we are. Okay, it does run, which is great. If we go back in here and we refresh, we should see something different. Okay, great. So the color isn't amazing, but okay, it is what it is. A microblogging platform. So all of this content, it kind of just auto-generated based on the kind of the description that we provided for our app, and it did something on its own. So it went into like creating a couple of how do you call these? A couple of cards that show what is unique about this, which is interesting. So we can sign in if we already have an account, or get started if we don't, and it provides us with relatively beautiful sign in form, which is actually quite nice. So if this works, right? And I hope that it does. So it's like, okay, it has provided us some instructions. It's like it's already celebrating. Okay, the server is running successfully, great. And to be honest, I'm very happy and surprised that it worked on first try, right? So nothing was broken. Everything that it has added just worked out of the box. So none of it was like something that we had to fix, or it had to fix, which is great. So it says here's what I built. There's a landing page. So the slash is basically the root. This is the most top level. So if we this is the app. If we open it and we would close all of the folders, there is one page that is basically in the root of the folder. So this is the main folder, so to speak, and then we have our app, which is where everything lives, and this is the page where we are on at the moment. So this is the landing page, and if we scroll down here, we should be able to see this is the microblogging platform that it was talking about. So yes, if we go back to, so I'm currently in this path. So I'm in /auth sign up. So if we go back to just the main page is just the slash. That is the page where we are at, right? So this is where it says microblogging platform, and this is exactly what we're seeing here, right? Text. And we will also even have our cards, right? So it says here, discover content, and every post is watermarked and connect with others. And these are the things that are in here, right? Okay, cool. So this is, so I'm just gonna keep everything. So currently it says there are 9 files, and then, 668 lines of code written. Amazing. And it works out of the box, which is really, really amazing. So let's get started. Let me, okay, sorry. I'm just gonna show you the, I'm just gonna have you stare at the VS Code for a second just so that I can sign up, and I'll bring you back as soon as I've done that. Okay, so our mouse. Uh, okay, I do want to show you something very quickly, just maybe. Okay, so I'm in the process of signing up. However, there are for me a couple of things that are missing, right? But this is just like for my perspective. So when filling in the password, right, it should. So when I fill in the confirm password one, I expect that it tells me that they are matching, right? So I want the border to be green or like some check mark to be here to show that these passwords are the same before I even click submit. And I want a icon here that makes it so that I can see the password that I typed, because currently it's hidden by default. I can't see it if I want to confirm that what I've written down is the thing that I want to have as my password. So I want a toggle so that I can see the password that I filled in if that's something that I want, right? We don't have that currently, but I'll give this as feedback so that it can add this later. But for now, if this works, then that is perfectly fine with me. Okay, so we are continuing with the sign up process. So I'm saying I'm signing up, and it says, okay, check your email for a verification link, which is amazing. So let me do just that. So I'm gonna go to my inbox and hopefully find a and yep, I have a email confirmation. Yeah, I have an email confirmation email in my inbox from Supabase that says that I need to confirm my email, which is great. So I'm gonna go back to the browser and I'm going to confirm my email. That is amazing. And that worked first try, which is really amazing. And this is, to be honest, the power of using something like the BMAD method, because you could have done the same with just prompting AI, but believe me, it would have taken you 10 weeks just to fix all of the broken things that AI would have given you without all of the structure that we have provided it using the workflow that it provides. So let me bring you back. So all I did is sign up. I confirmed my email address, right? And now it's showing me this page, which is kind of the continuation of the account setup, because when I signed up, I just gave it an email address and a password. That's it. I already requested before, if you can remember, that I want users to be to provide their like name and username and whatever. But cleverly, it did this as a second step, because if someone hasn't already confirmed their email address, we wouldn't even want to bother with like letting them choose a username. or like a display name, or have like their bio filled out or anything like that, right? So let's do this. So if I'm going to, so my, okay, so this cannot be capitalized seemingly. So this is all lower letters, which is fine. So I'm just going to call myself humble-dev. Yeah, humble dev is going to work. Bio, hi there. I'm the creator of humble devs. Please enjoy. Okay. Okay, sorry, I'm just gonna switch you back really quickly. I have no idea what it will show on the next screen, so I don't want to have any kind of like private information being visible. So setup is okay. It says username can only contain letters and numbers. Sorry, I'm just gonna bring you back very quickly. And this is also great. So this is very important, which is generally something that you would do yourself after you've already gotten everything functional. But it is already adding user feedback, right? So normally, if this is something that doesn't work, uh, you need to code in that, okay, this becomes red. You add this text to the interface that tells the user that, your username can only be letters, numbers, and underscores, right? So I've used a hyphen, which is a dash, which is seemingly not allowed. So I'm just going to use an underscore, like it says that it's allowed, and I'm going to continue with that. Cool. Okay, perfect. So now that I've completed it, I actually just it kind of hit me that I should have taken screenshots of like all of the pages that I navigated through, but that's okay. I can always like sign up as a new user and do it then. That's not really a problem. But yeah, we're done. So we have signed up successfully. Supabase sent me an email to verify my account, or at least my email address, and I signed up. You can see that I have a profile. This is my handle, and yeah, this is the description or the bio that I provided. Yeah, there is no post, so it says here create post, but none of this is functional. So this is just placeholder, which is fine. But at least users can, in fact, sign up, which is really amazing, to be honest. And I would show you that the account exists in Supabase. Actually, I do want. Just let me check very quickly. Just want to make sure that I navigate to the right section so that I don't again show any information that I shouldn't be showing publicly. So going to tables, going to profiles. Yeah, that's fine. No, I just want to make sure that my email address is stored somewhere else than my general like user data. And it is, which is great. So we have the profile, we have reports, spaces, subscription. Okay, perfect. So let me bring in the profiles. Cool. So here it is. So inside of the profiles, we have my profile, right? And there is, the authentication database is a totally separate thing. So when users sign up, there is a dedicated database by default. So you don't create this one. It's just there because you allow people to sign up. That houses the sign up information. So all of the password, which is encrypted. So you don't actually see like user passwords, and you can't decrypt it, at least not in a regular fashion. And their email address and whatever other information that they have provided or you made it obligatory for them to provide when they sign up, right? But my user profile is here, and all of this is functional, and all of this was written by the agent that is currently still our architect. And all we did here is just create an account, create a project, give it the project URL as well as the API key. And that's it. It basically added all of the logic that's needed to make it functional, and it is. So I have been able to sign up. I have my bio, which you've seen, and all of it is working. So yeah, this is actually quite good, and as you can see, it created quite good structure for the project. So we have the library here, which will have basically all of the tools that we use. So we have Supabase, and generally we'll have more in here as well. There's a public folder that houses all of the publicly available information. So any kind of like logo or something that we use will be housed in here, as well as like any kind of content that we make available. We have our Supabase information in here, which is currently just the schema, which is fine. Yeah, really, really great stuff. We have the providers, we have the UI. So here we have, so these are currently the components that we've imported from ChatCN, which is great. I don't know if I've shown ChatCN at all, to be honest, which is not great. So let's do that. So yeah, here we can go to, let's get rid of this one. It's been open here for quite a while. We don't need it anymore. It's already set up. We can get rid of Node.js. Yeah, the spec thingy, which is for GitHub, which is fine. Yeah, okay, this was a bit of news that we had to open last time. So let's go to ChatCN. So I think I've shown this, but again, maybe just reiterate. So we chose, or at least I chose, to use this UI library for our application. Why? Because it's very diverse and it gives you components. So where other libraries give you a link to a component that they've created, for ChatCN, you basically get the entire component in your project. So components, UI. So a button is basically the entire script. So here is the entire button, and our AI agent is free to change this however they want, right? So it's not, you don't say, like for example with Tailwind CSS, you can say that, okay, I want to use the primary button, and the primary button has predefined design and like behavior. And there is some adjustability there, but you can't change all of it, right? Here, no, you get like an entire component, and you are able to change the component in its behavior completely. So if we choose our own design language, right? And having these UI components here, so the cards, for example, this is where the text lives. That's on the home page. Also is a component that has all of its attributes inside of this component file. And our agent can change any part of it. So if we tell it that we want the borders to be like a specific color, or have some kind of animation or whatever, and we want this to be across the board, so this needs to apply everywhere, it will just change the card component right here. And it will change everywhere in our application because we will reuse this component. So everywhere where we need a card, it will just use this card component. Everywhere where we need a form, it will use this form. And again, if we change the form itself, it will change everywhere where we're using the form, right? And this is the reason why, for me at least, I've chosen to go with this one, because it gives you more flexibility. But again, it gives you like very beautiful design, modern design. Like you see, this is the sign up that we use, right? Because this is where it came from. And because we gave instruction to our agent to always use context 7 when it's trying to write code, especially when it integrates with other solutions, it will always reach out to context 7 to check what are the latest API calls, what are the latest methods that it needs to use to get these components. So that we don't run into a problem which I used to have, is that it uses methods that it learned about when the model was being trained, and these have been deprecated. So the names have changed, or like the syntax of how you request it has changed. and then it tries to do it, and it can't. And then it tries to basically do it in various ways that are all similar. And then you either have to go online and get the new method and tell it that, okay, here is the page that explains it, or here's the code that you need to use in order for it to get unstuck. Or otherwise, it will just continue using some broken components. Okay. So I've rambled on for a bit, but I hope this extra context has given you a bit of additional information. So again, we're signed up, we're good to go. Let's continue. So it was celebrating, and the celebrations were definitely in order because it works. So yeah, it's completed the main page, the sign up, the login, the profile setup, the dashboard, as well as the authentication callback. So the authentication callback you don't see, but this is basically the path where when you click on the link inside of the email that you get to verify your email address, this is where you get sent to, right? And this is where it tells you that, okay, now you're authenticated. You can now provide me with your like user account handle, your like name, as well as your bio. Okay, so form validation. So key features implemented. It has already done the form validation using Zod, which is a library. Password complexity. So it says, okay, this is all standard. I didn't request this, but this is very good standard to uphold. So it's like, okay, there must be an uppercase, a lowercase, a number, and more than 8 characters. Username uniqueness. So the username must be unique during validation. So when a user tries to sign up, it will check our database to make sure that there isn't already a user that has the exact same handle. Email verification flow, which I've tested, protected routes. So it says, okay, you can't like access protected routes. So if I go to my account now, so the dashboard, for example, we shouldn't be able to access if we are not signed up, right? So there needs to be a user that is signed in at the moment. And if not, then, we shouldn't allow them. This is something that we can, of course, test. So we can like open an incognito window and in here try to visit this path and see if it allows us. And yeah, it doesn't. So it just brings us to the login page. So it's like, okay, you're not an authenticated user because we're like in the incognito window and we haven't logged in. And it just navigates us back to here, right? Which is the behavior that we would want. Okay. Profile completion flow, responsive design using Tailwind. Yeah, so responsive design is definitely there. Again, like a lot of it is not yet functional, but that's fine. We'll get there. Full integration with our Superbase schema. That's correct. Row level security, user profile creation and retrieval, proper error handling for duplicate usernames. So actually, to test the like user account retrieval, I don't have a log out button, so this is something that has been implemented. I thought, okay, let me log out and log back in, but yeah, there isn't really a possibility currently for me to log out. So let's add that in the next session, or not the next session, but soon. And then it's like, okay, here are the next steps. Now that user stories 1, 2, and 3 are completed, we can move on to user story 4, 5, and 6. The foundation is rock solid and ready for the next phase of development. Would you like me to proceed with implementing the post-creation functionality, or would you like to test the current authentication system first? Okay, so I'm just going to ask it a question that will break the flow a little bit. That works, and I have tested all of the mentioned functionality successfully, right? When should we transition to having the PO run the check list and the dev to implement their tasks? Does this happen after we complete US 00? So user story 4 until up to actually, that. So user story 005 and user story 006. I just want to make sure that it's not overcommitting, so that it's not continuing and doing the developer's work instead of wrapping up its own architecture role and continuing with and letting me continue with the other personas. So excellent question. As the architect, I'm providing some strategic data. Okay. So recommended transition points. Okay, that was a whole lot. Excellent question. I provide strategic guidance in one transition role, I hand off to the specialist team member. Okay, current status of assessment. We successfully completed the foundational architecture phase. Recommended transition point. Option 1, transition now, recommended. Why this makes sense? The core architecture is solid and well documented. We have a working authentication system to build upon the technical foundation. Is completely tested. Are more feature focused rather than architectural. Yeah, so this is like what I'm talking about in general. So even though there are a lot of guidelines, AI would still generally just like would ignore it sometimes and just wants to continue with whatever it thinks is logical. So you still have to kind of be in control and kind of guide it, because we've already been working with this architect for quite a while. And any moment now, it will exceed its context window limit and it will start to do things that won't be good. So that's why I'm like, okay, where do we stand now? And should we exit out of this current chat and continue somewhere else? Or is it at all smart to continue with this current chat? So, okay, so it agrees with me that this is now a good point to transition away from using the architect to do further implementation. Just like, okay, the core architecture is solid. Okay, so these are more feature focused, right? Handoff would include PO. Run checklist to validate current implementation against requirements. Developer implement the core social features. Posts, follow feeds, and architecture me available for consultation on technical decisions. Okay. So option 2, complete one more epic first. So it's like, okay, if you prefer, complete epic 1, which still has user story 4 through 7, then transition. This gives you the complete core social and account foundation, more substantial handoff package, but delays specialized expertise. My recommendation is to transition now. Here's why: architecture is complete. These are clearly defined. Technical foundation. Developer has everything needed to build features. Quality assurance. The PO can validate the current implementation. Okay, so what it says here is kind of a a bit of a contradiction, because like it's okay, I can continue because I already have the context and yada yada. It gives you a better foundation for transitioning, but still, I would prefer for you to transition now. So the proposed next step: activate the PO, run their checklist, and on the current implementation, hand off to developer with clear user stories to implement. Architect stays available. Okay. Would you like me? So I don't want it to activate the PO. I'll do that myself. Create a comprehensive handoff document for the developer. Continue building. Okay. So activating the PO. Yeah. So I'll do that in a new chat because I don't want to overcommit on this current context window. So I'll just tell it I will activate the PO myself. Could you please do the needed handoff to the developer? Okay, and this like developer handoff.md is also pre-scripted in the persona of the architect, so that like this name has been predefined, and it kind of has a set of things that it needs to place in there. Okay. All right. So it has created the handoff document, which is great. Okay, what's included? Clear mission, code examples, file structure, database integration, technical guidance, developer order. Uh, database schema. Okay, it's already. Okay, what's next? PO validates current implementation against requirements. Developer takes over feature implementation using this handoff. Architect remains available. The developer now has everything they need to build core social features. My work as okay, so okay, it has marked its work as complete, which is great. Now we've been working with the architect now for quite a while within this like single chat, which is fine. But at some point we do really need to cut it off so that we don't reach the context window limit for this specific chat, and for it to kind of go off the rails and forget certain things and maybe implement something that wouldn't be great. So let's now start a new chat, right? So the architect has now completed its work. And we could commit at the moment. I'm going to do it at the end because I don't see like reason to stop now. Actually, maybe it is a good point to stop. Not sure. Okay. So git. Okay, no, I can do git info here. Okay. Git status. So it's like okay. On branch main, on track. So yeah, we have a whole bunch of things that are not tracked, nothing added to commit, but untracked files. Okay. So let's do git add everything, git commit, and then the message is architecture completed. Going to continue with PO now, just for us to know like when did we what was completed for this, right? So all of these now are considered tracked. Um, um, so we are. Oh, okay. Um, yeah. Okay, it's fine. I think I should. Okay, so the docs I do want to submit, but I think I will. Yeah. So I don't want to take everything that is basically inside of the BMAD core and GitHub with anything behind it, VS Code, as well as I will take the docs. I think it's good to have these as reference, and of course, like the whole app as usual. But do I want? Yeah, this is a bit of a weird file structure, to be very honest, because now our app will be inside of a folder where normally we would have just the app with the app folder. Yeah, I yeah, so we have everything here, and we really don't need the okay. So I'm gonna yeah, I think I'm gonna do it differently. So I don't want to submit all of this, to be honest. I want to just have the app be submitted because I don't think any of this I could always like move the docs somewhere else and upload these separately, but I don't think it's I don't want to deal with the extra complexity, to be honest. So let's hmm. Yeah, so let's leave this. So we'll go back to here. Um, okay. Yeah, sorry. I just want to we'll do git init here. ls yes yeah. So git init inside of the folder inside of this folder. So I just want this to go to GitHub and nothing else at the moment. So it's initialized a repository in there, which is fine. And we're going to say, okay, we already created a repo for it earlier, right? Which was here. So what we want is to set this as the remote repository and commit this and make this initial commit. So let's do just that. So we're gonna do this. Run all of these. It's like okay, error failed to push. Yeah, okay. We're not authenticated here, or at least not with this account. I think. Specify mail not much any. Okay, so let's do one thing at a time. Let's get rid of no, of course. Okay, let's just copy this one. And it's like, okay, error remote origin already exists. Okay, fine. So what is it? We couldn't send the branch. No, that's fine. Git push you origin main. Oh, okay, that's okay. Git yeah, okay, we have never committed before, of course. First commit completed architecture and moving on to PO checklist. And then it says to commit what uncheck file present. Use git add to track. Oh, okay, we didn't add anything. Git add all. And then we will do our commit, which is fine, and then we'll do git push origin main. Okay, yeah. So yeah, by using this, I kind of skipped a few steps. You do need to add everything first. So you need to add everything that's in the repository. And then after that, you need to commit it. And after the commit, you can say that I want to push. And you're always, I mean, for now, right? So we're pushing to GitHub. So when you do push, you're pushing to the remote repository, which is the repository that is in the URL. And then we don't really need to use the -u, which is like only for the first time you're pushing. And the origin means the branch that we want to submit it to, and we're currently submitting to main. Later, if we have the project, for example, up and running and we're publishing it, and then after we publish it, we want to add a new feature, we'll create a new branch, and then the origin will be the name of the branch, not main, right? So if we go to code, we should have everything here, which we do, which is great. And we have our README, which was created for us by our agent, which is also great. And this is currently just a snapshot in time, right? So we can always return back to this state if the, like, for example, the following steps don't go very well. We could always choose to revert back to like this time. So I'm going to save this. I will most probably get rid of the Git branch altogether in the like parent folder, because we're managing everything inside of like the application folder itself, which is this. I will eventually change this name just to make it less confusing. But yeah, it is what it is for now. Okay, we still have a bit of time. Actually, we still have quite a lot of time. We made some good progress. So I'm going to continue with getting the PO up and running. Yeah, so we have here the developer handoff, which is great. Do we have anything for the PO at the end? Recommended development, performance, important notes. Okay, let's just see if the PO is in here. I mean, yeah, there will be a lot of POs in here, but let's go and see if we have anything for the PO agent. No, that's fine. So let's, yeah, we'll leave this for what it is. We're going to switch to the PO, which is a product owner. I'm just going to switch back to Gemini 2.5 Pro. Or not. Okay, let's continue. Okay, so hi, we completed the architecture and like to continue with the checklist before the developer starts his work. And if any point you are not sure what is the next step for you, then you should really be looking at this, right? So this is the user guide of the BMAD method that we're using. So currently we are here, right? So the architecture or the architect completed their part. It created a handover document. And now we have the PO, which is currently checking their checklist for the development. And then if he says everything is okay to continue, we will be giving the tasks, or at least he will shard the document first, which is optional, to basically split all of the tasks that have to be implemented by the developer into separate like files, where with their dedicated instructions, so that we can tell the developer to implement them one at a time. It's like, okay, I'll help you run through the product owner checklist. Now let me look for the configurations. Okay, file to understand. Okay, so it read this. Perfect. Now I have the project configuration. I'm Sarah, the product owner, and I need to execute the product owner master checklist. Let me first. Okay. So, no, okay. I'll help you ensure the artifacts are complete, consistent, and ready for development. I focus on plan integrity, documentation quality, and actionable development tasks. So you see that here, like for example, the Gemini 2.5 Pro used to highlight these differently. So it would put these in code brackets so that they become more visible, which this one doesn't do, but it's fine. It's still at least in a list and it's numbered. So that's still perfectly fine. ChatGPT just provides you a list that's not even complete without any kind of numbers. It just makes them bullet points and it's a bit hard to read. Okay, so available commands based on your request to run through the checklist before the developer work begins. I recommend we execute option 6 to run through. Okay, so 1 is help, correct course, which we know we're still very much on course. Create epics, create story, doc out, output full documentation to current destination file, execute checklist. Yeah, so we're going to go with 6. Yeah. Okay, I'll just copy this and put it in just to be very, very clear. Okay, so it's reading the checklist, going through the PRD, going through the architecture. Yeah, okay. So it says based on my analysis, this is clearly a greenfield project, which is indeed the case. Let me ask about the execution mode and process. Okay, product owner master checklist. I've identified this is a greenfield project with UI UX components. Based on that, with the validation, which you prefer. Option A, select section by section, interactive mode. I'll work through each section one at a time, present findings, and get your confirmation before proceeding to the next section. This would be thorough but time consuming. Option B, all at once, comprehensive mode. I'll process all sections at once and present comprehensive validation. Okay, which approach? Okay, I'm gonna stick with I'm gonna go with B. It also recommends that, but I don't think it's worth it to go through every single thing. We've already documented everything quite clearly. So I think that should be more than enough context for the product owner to make their decision. Please go with option B. Yep. Yeah. And just maybe to come back to a point that I mentioned in the beginning, where for me, I tried GitHub Copilot when it launched, which was not a great experience. So it used to be super, super slow. When I was using Cursor during that time, anything that Cursor would do in 5 minutes, it took more than half an hour to get done by GitHub Copilot. But it was very, very different back then. You couldn't select any model, so you just choose something on its own and you have no input on that. Again, it was very, very slow and it had very little like things that you could do in terms of interaction. It is now very much on par with like Cursor and Windsurf, even though it's still a little bit behind. They still provide better tooling. However, it's very cheap. But for me personally, still, I would choose Windsurf because for $5 more per month, you get a lot more access to other agents that are simply not available for GitHub Copilot. The performance is also great. So for me personally, I would stick with windsurf. Okay, so it has already identified a couple of things that require some attention, which is great. And this is also one of the great things about following such a method, that there is a lot of logic and like many things that are essential to building an app that are baked in. So you don't have to continuously think about it. You don't have to wait until the moment that the AI does something that is relatively stupid, and you're like, no, but you also have to account for this. And it's like, yes, you are very right. I forgot to think about that. Right. So this predefines everything to make sure that you can build your product with as little headache and as little like breaking and fixing as possible. So the final decision is a conditional approval. The development plan requires specific adjustment before proceeding. So it's like, okay, complete generate individual story files recommended using SM agent. Optional, create basic wireframes. Can proceed with handoff guidance. Completed. Define user story. Okay. Why? So why is it not a full approval? The architecture document and technical foundations are exemplary. However, the lack of individual story files creates a gap between the epic level planning and the developer's need for specific actionable tasks. The handoff document provides excellent technical guidance, but doesn't replace the need for individual story planning. Recommendation: proceed with the development after creating individual story files. The technical foundation is solid. Okay. So the next step is okay. So would you like me to create the individual story files using this M agent workflow? Provide detailed analysis, generate specific story reordering suggestions based on technical dependencies, focus on resolving technical blockage. Okay. So I just want to go through very quickly and see what it did. So the project specific analysis. So the green field is like, okay, clean architecture, complete database structure, modern tech stack, authentication system, comprehensive PRD, UI. So it says, okay, the wireframes. Okay, so it says that these are not available, but we do have them. So they do live in the docs and the wireframes folder. So I'm gonna point it there and ask it if it already checked that folder, and maybe it will check mark this then. And then it's like, okay, the project setup and initialization. So yeah, the project is already in place. There is already a clear handoff with all of the things that are required, complete database. The policies are in place, proper cascade deletes and relation defined, Supabase client configuration, authentication database. So serverless architecture, edge functions, great, UI framework, tailwind. What is missing? So again, it's complaining about the wireframes, specific navigation, and pattern not visually refined. Okay, cool. So I remember we also where did I have the oh yeah, okay. So I'm gonna point it to design and wireframes and see what it says. And then here it says, okay, no story execution order defined beyond handoff document. Yeah, that is fair. Cross story dependencies, critical. Okay. Okay, great and comprehensive information. Have you looked in these folders for design assets and wireframes? And I'm gonna point it to wireframes, the folder, and assets. Assets. You're absolutely right. I need to examine the wireframes and design assets you've provided. Let me check these. Okay. It's funny that it's pointing out that it missed these folders, which is fine. Okay, so we are now getting a full approval because seemingly the only major problem that it had before was that the design was not documented anywhere, but it was. So that's fine. We pointed it to where it needs to go, and that's good. Thank you for the correction. I apologize for the initial missing these critical design assets. Significant improvement. Wireframes are particularly well detailed with component breakdown that uh, will make development much smoother. Okay, so what do we do here? So the project exemplifies excellent planning and preparation. Well, thank you very much. The developer can begin immediately with confidence. All foundation elements are in place for a successful implementation. So approved for development. Okay. Great. So that is amazing. Now we need to so this is the app. These are the docs. And we have the architecture brief PRD. Okay, yeah, so ready to proceed immediate. The developer plan is now comprehensive and ready for immediate developer handoff. Recommended next step. So begin developer, follow the handoff document sequence. Start with US 004, create posts as recommended. Use wireframe prefix, visual. Yep. Optional enhancement. No blocking can be done using developer. Create individual story files for better task tracking. Add specific error message definitions and define performance benchmark beyond Lighthouse 90 plus. So Lighthouse is a tool that's used to measure how good your app is in terms of performance. And it's quite comprehensive. We have never used it or looked at it, but I think it's a good place as any to actually do so. So if we go to our extensions and we go to the marketplace and we look for Lighthouse. Okay, so this Lighthouse extension is just amazing. So we're going to add this to Chrome. And yes, wonderful. A device desktop. Yeah, okay. So let's do desktop. Sure. So how does it work? If we are on any website, so if we go to localhost 3000, which is our app, if it's still up, no, it's not. So let's start it. npm run dev. Cool. Okay. So if we go to Lighthouse and we run Lighthouse, and it's going to ask us like it's on desktop. Yeah, it's local. Great. Use DevTools. So that. Okay, so it doesn't allow for doing this. Okay, then we'll do it on not localhost. So let's do this on this website. Lighthouse. Yeah, desktop. And we're going to, so you can use like one of these. We'll see the difference. So what it will do is it will run a whole bunch of analytics to show you, according to Google's benchmarks, how good or not this web page is. And it has like it looks at many different aspects. So how fast does your page load? How fast do the components of your page take to load, and does this impact the user experience in general? So it provides you some metrics, and here it says, well, according to Lighthouse, this website didn't really do all that great. But again, that's fine. It's not you don't have to pay too much attention to this, but it's a good practice to at least check whether there are components of your applications that are particularly heavy to load, and think about doing these differently. And even like the agents that we use can help us tremendously with that. So they can provide, ways to improve the code, or to make it lighter to run, or like quicker to load, and all these kind of things. But this is only relevant when you've already fully built your applications, because there's no point to optimize when you're just building, because at that point you don't even know which part of your application is going to be the heaviest to load. Um, so once you've fully completed and build your applications, then it's viable to look into, Lighthouse and its performance metrics. But before then, I wouldn't even think about it. So yeah, it's still doing some stuff, which is fun. So every component basically has its metrics. There's a description for like what it does, um, and you can click on each component and kind of read about it. Um, so points of interaction, the heaviest thing to load. So it will explain all of this very well to you. But in general, what you're looking for is this. So how does the website perform in general? This is quite a heavy website. I mean, at the end of the day, there is like a whole bunch of metrics that is loading from a database somewhere. So it's only logical that this website isn't very, very performant, which is very normal. But it is what it is, right? So if that's the kind of app that you're making, and it's heavy, and it has a lot of things that it needs to process, then it's going to be heavy. Then there's not really much you can do about that. But for now, this website is following the best practices. Has a great search engine optimization. Accessibility is still very good, but the performance is not great, which is again fine, because again, this is a huge, huge single page that loads all of this information that we're seeing here from like various databases. So it's only logical that all of this takes quite a lot of time to load. But again, this is Lighthouse, and this is what it does. It's completely free. It's made by Google, and it's part of like the development of the um, Chrome browser, not Chrome, but Chromium, the open source browser where Chrome is based upon. So yeah, Lighthouse. So that's what it's talking about. So define performance benchmarks beyond Lighthouse 90 plus. So that's like the metric that it has set for itself to test whether our applications is reaching in terms of like benchmark 90 plus on Lighthouse. Now here it says create individual story files for better tracking. Yes and no. Maybe we should do that. Add specific error message definitions. Let's do these. So can we please continue with these? So it will create a new folder inside of docs, which is going to be the story. So we have the epics, the user stories, and the function, non-functional requirements. But I would prefer for the PO to actually create all of the tasks that should be actioned upon by the developer, because it's easier for us to track these and for the developer agent as well. And we can also make adjustments to each one, because they'll be like separated in kind of a logical fashion. So I prefer to do that than to just let it work off the list that currently exists. Yeah, please go ahead. Okay, yeah, that's great, and it's quite comprehensive. So so here for the creation of posts, it explains everything. So registered user, create publishing short text-based post, and share my thoughts with my followers, and then it's okay. There's a whole acceptance criteria. So what should we be looking at to? So for the developer, what does it mean for the task to be complete? These are all of the acceptance criteria, which is great. Then we have all of the subtasks. So this is also really, really good. So it's creating all of the various files for all of the different tasks, which is great. And like we can go through these and like read through them. And if we're like, okay, we want something else to be done, then we can do that. I will also ask the agent, not the agent, but the PO already to, when it's done doing all of this that is doing, to fix the things that I noted about the sign-up flow. So to add a toggle to see the password when entering it, as well as to provide visual feedback that both passwords are matching. Yes, and it's taking basically all of the information out of our now everything is open here, which is quite much. But if we go to our PRD, we had the epics, right? And the epics have stories, and this is where the user story 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and whatnot came from. But these are quite like rough statements. So it says, okay, I want to create this. And this is not very, very precise, right? So you still have like checklists and whatnot, but it's not the same. So if we look at, for example, user story 4, which is here, so for creating the creating posts, this is quite, I mean, just a couple of sentences, right? While if we look at this one, is much more detailed, has basically combines all of the information that is there in the PRD, the brief, as well as the technical architecture to create a very specific task for the developer agent to implement and test, right? So there's testing. It's like, okay, these are the tests that you have to run in order to say that, okay, this task is complete and you can continue and like check this off and continue with the next one. Okay, sorry, I need to keep on accepting these. And at this moment, I would really love to hear like your thoughts. Is this too much documentation for you? Or do you think that, no, I do believe that this is good practice, and if I'm going to build my app, I would do it in this fashion? Because there are, of course, similar kind of frameworks, just like the spec one that we looked at for GitHub Copilot recently, that are much simpler in their approach. Personally, why I like this one is that it creates a lot of artifacts that are very descriptive, so that later down the line, so if I've completely built this application out, right, and I want to add things, I can just go back to the architect and I'm like, okay, all of the tasks have been completed. However, I want to add this or change that or have this feature added. And it can then look into all of the things that we've already done and add it in a way that makes sense, that is in line with everything that we have created, without it having to go through the entire code base and read everything and like have to deduce what is best to do out of that, if that makes sense. So it's like, okay, I've created the individual files. So yeah, it broke these up into like 4 epics, so to speak, with all of their subtasks. So it has created all of the stories. So it has a specific error messages definition. I've created a comprehensive error handling. So centralized error reporting. So if things go wrong from the user interface point of view, that it would show error messages to the user to indicate that something didn't happen properly. TypeScript support with proper type definitions and success messages. So it's like, okay, overall readiness 98%, previously 95. The project now has all of these ready for implementation. The developer starts with story 1.4 using the detailed task breakdown reference central. Okay, it's comprehensive. Okay, so okay, good. So we're going to keep everything that our PO has created. I'm just going to ask it for one more thing. I have some feedback regarding the user sign up flow that is already implemented by the architect. I would like the sign up form to have the following one, which will be a toggle to show the typed in password, as now it's hidden and the user can't see what they have typed. Visual feedback that confirms that the password and confirm password fields are a match. Okay, at this point, I think it's also good to provide a screenshot of that. So I'm going to go and just go to the sign up page and just give it a screenshot of it so that it understands what I'm talking about. So I'm just going to make a small screenshot. Okay. And give it in as context. And the PO will decide where this task would need to go. Okay, so yeah, so it's creating an earlier task. So it's creating one that precedes everything that is there now, which is task 1.1. So sign up UX enhancements, great. I'll see the sign up flow is already implemented. Now I need to create an announcement story for the existing sign up flow. Okay. All right, so here's the new file. And okay, so announce improvement, user story, user trying to sign up, better visual feedback for password fields. I can confidently enter my password, ensure it matches the confirmation field. What was click the eye icon reveals hides the typed password text. Real-time visual indication when passwords match or don't match. User comment. Okay, good. I mean, that's exactly what I'm asking for. So it did make it quite comprehensive, but that's fine. This is not a major update, so it shouldn't really take a lot of effort to implement. Okay, good. Yeah, so it is great that it's quite comprehensive. So it's updating the task itself, of course, as well as adding some things to the error message handling, and even updating the README file and the developer handoff to capture all of this information. Okay. Okay. Perfect. So now we can basically just continue with the developer, ready for implementation. Developer now has detailed task breakdown, 5 specific tasks with subtask, technical implementation guidance, design artifact, accessibility requirement. Okay. Um, okay. Improve the sign up. Okay. Developer can start immediately with story point 1. So we're going to close this chat, or at least just create a new one so that we empty the context window. We're going to exit out of our app. So we're still running the dev server, which we don't need at the moment. And we're going to select our developer. Hi, developer, can you please proceed with... so it's already added it here as context, which is great. With the implementation of... I'm still going to link it though. Okay, so James is our developer, your full stack developer. I'll help you implement the sign up UX story. Let me first read the core configuration and then show you the available commands. Okay. Okay, so it's going through the entire architecture document, which is great. So it should give it all of the context that it needs. And then it's like, okay, I can help. I can develop story, execute story implementation, follow task order, explain. You don't need to explain anything. You can please continue with our first user story, which is 1.1. But it's still doing its thing. Okay, so it updates it like updating a task list. So it goes from draft to in progress, which is fine. Which is actually quite great, because if at some point this chat, for example, stopped working, like there's a service outage or something like that, if you continue with this, then if it keeps updating this properly, then even if you would continue at a later point, it should still continue from where it left off. So what does it want to create? Password input. Yeah, fine. Actually, it has not been working for a while at all. We just started a new chat, so please let it continue with what it's doing. Okay, so it already started breaking some things. And yeah, we can see that by the files becoming red. So that means that there is an error in the file, or at least something that should not be there. So let's see if it can fix it properly. Mm, sure. Okay, so one more remark. We should have committed the changes after the PO finished their work and flagged it as a point of like, okay, this is where the PO completed and we're going to continue with the developer, just in case that the developer messes things up, that we can just, restore that point and then start over. Um, okay, so it's like, okay, I want to, okay, sure. Okay, so I'm gonna have to explain this. So what it's doing now, it's running build is, so when you run build, you're trying to build the environment where the application needs to run on. And it will also validate all of the code that's there, that is actually connected, that there are no broken functionalities and all that kind of stuff. So when it runs build here, it will basically catch any errors that would otherwise pop up during the running of the application. So we're going to allow it to do so, and it's going to check whether it's able to run the build without any errors. So you get these here. If you look at the terminal, currently there are. So failed to compile, so there are some problems with the code currently. So it will try to, based on the errors here, it will try to fix these. And what the developer already did wrong is that it tried to recreate the authentication page while it already exists. So all I asked is for additions to be made, but it went ahead and like rewrote the entire page, which is a bit heavy-handed. So I could have like stopped it and told it that, okay, don't do that. But I chose to let it do its thing and see how that works out. And at the moment, it's not working out too well, to be honest. But let's give it a bit of time and see if it manages to pull everything together. So it's running build again after making some fixes. And synchronize build. Okay. No, so we still have some broken functionality, unexpected. Okay. Um, yeah, so it seems to be failing in closing certain code blocks. Okay, so that seems to have run successfully. And yeah, so let's run dev. Okay, so run dev is not all that great. There are still some issues here. Could not read package.json. I think we're running dev in the wrong environment. Yeah. Yeah, it's also like getting confused by the folder. So it's now navigating inside the folder and then running dev, which it should have done from the first place. Because trying to run dev in the parent folder instead of the actual like application folder. This should work though. So we were able to successfully run build. So running dev should be no problem at all. So dev is ready. Yeah. So let me check that very quickly. So if we go to 3000, we should have our main page. And if we say get started, it should still navigate us here. So we can still enter a user, like an email address, which is fine. Enter a password, that is good. So yeah, we can now. So if I type hello and I do this, I should be able to see it. And if I type hello here, it should tell me that the passwords match, which is exactly what we're looking for. So yeah, it made the additions that were requested properly, and it fixed the things that it broke, which is great. Now it's basically continuing with completing the task. So I see the issue. So okay, it's running. Let me add the dev agent record section. Okay. Let me complete task 5 by doing the accessibility and testing. Let me perform some quick accessibility tests and complete the remaining task. Okay. Okay. So no, I don't want to add it to context. I want to actually see it. So where is our okay. It's fine. The stories, design, docs. Where did it put this file? Interesting. Okay, I mean, that's quite a long report for a relatively small task, but okay. So it says story definition of done, the checklist validation, running the story. Okay. So yeah, it passed everything. Acceptance criteria is fine. So testing, it says partial manual testing performed. So yeah, I don't think we need automated testing for this. This will never change throughout the build. So I'm happy with that. Manual validation, yes, edge case handling, so empty password fields. So we're not allowing for these password mismatch. We're not allowing for these in accessibility navigation. Okay, so all tasks. Okay, dependencies. There shouldn't be many. Okay, so that's fine. All of the things that it marks that is not good, that's fine. We're not never going to change this anyway later, so it's okay. Story implementation complete. What was delivered? Okay, perfect. So it says, okay, how to test. Yeah, we already saw that. So we went already to localhost. We navigated the sign up. We saw indeed that there is a visibility toggle. Real-time validation, accessibility from submission. Okay. Um, Okay, all acceptance criteria were met. Ready for your review and testing. Okay, I've tested it and it works as expected. And now we can basically continue to the next task. Okay, so it has now updated all of the components that they have passed and that everything is good to go. Okay. Keep. So this is considered done. The source final code review. Okay, so let's actually do that. So I'm gonna exit out of this. Yeah, I also find it a bit cumbersome that it's continuously opening a new terminal window when it runs a command, which is a bit excessive. I'm just gonna delete all of these because it's a bit much. And other than that, this is also why it continuously confuses itself and tries to run dev in the parent folder because it opens a new terminal and the new terminal is in the parent folder automatically. So let's do git add. So it will add everything that has changed now. Then git commit. And then we're going to say the message is completed PO checklist and implemented 1.1 with the developer. Now moving on to 1.4, which is the next item. Okay. Okay, sorry. I don't mean to quote anything. I added the bracket at the end instead of the double quotes. So let me do this again properly. So I'm gonna delete this, delete that. Okay. So it says commit one with the developer. Now moving to nothing to commit. Yeah, okay, it's already committed. So we're gonna say git push origin main. Okay, so this will basically upload all of the current files that we have to GitHub, to the repository. And that's perfectly fine. So let's do... Okay, so let's continue. I'm going to keep this chat because we didn't do a whole lot, to be honest, with the developer. And I'd like for it to keep the context of what it already did, at least for now. So I'm just going to say, please continue with 1.4. I don't know why 1.1 is still in there, but we just needed to continue with 1.4. So it made 1.4 in progress. And so it's going to create a validator for posts. Okay, so while it's doing that, I think it's as good point as any to explain the code base a little bit. So just forget about all of the docs and everything that's in the main folder. So this is the application. And this is the folder structure. Where, I mean, you can of course look up a Next.js project structure, and this would like be relatively similar to that. But the app is basically the application that we're building. And for every UI, so every page that a user can be on, we will have pages that are inside of a folder. So we have authentication, where we have the callback, where you get sent to when you have confirmed your email, right? And this is where it kind of Okay, this is not a great example. So let's go to login. It's a bit more logical. So let's close the route. So there are a lot of things that we're importing, right? Do you remember we imported things when we're using JavaScript? The same happens when you use TypeScript. So you see here that this is a TSX for a TypeScript file. But TypeScript is JavaScript with type safety. And I'm going to explain that in just a bit. So we're importing a lot of functionality. So we use React as a front end. We have React hooks and like everything that we need. We have Zod for resolving paths. We have the use route. So all of these things are components that are a part of our application, defined by default because this is the structure of our project. But also we're importing UI elements, right? So we're using ShadCN as the UI library. We have a components folder. So if we look at components and we have UI, you see that we have the button, we have card, we have form, we have input. And this is what we're getting here. So we're saying, okay, we want button from components UI button. We want card and all of these things from, again, UI component card. So the card has multiple things. So you have a normal card, card content, card description, card header, card title. So we're importing all of these into this specific script so that we can actually use them, right? Because these are external resources. So this page wouldn't otherwise know where this information comes from if we're not telling it that, okay, I want the button and the button is located here. So it's inside of our project, inside of the components folder, UI, and then you have the button object itself, right? And then we're like, okay, this is where the actual logic of the page starts. We're going to export a default function that is login page, and this is being called here, and then you have all of the logic of the login page. You can, if you want, have your AI like explain this to you, like bit by bit. You can tell it that, okay, can you explain to me this whole page? And it will go through it one by one and show you and kind of explain to you all of the different parts of the code and what they do. But we're going to read through it as if we're just reading through a document. It's loading some components. This is React functionality, which again, the agent can explain to you. Then we have the user form. So we're like, okay, we're going to provide the user an ability to sign in. And this is where the sign in schema comes in. And for that, we only would take an email address and a password because the user already exists. So we're taking these values, and then the auto resolver will make sure that there are some pieces of logic in place to make sure that this happens relatively securely. We have an async await, so on submit data. So when the user provides this information, this goes away, and then the page doesn't freeze until the information is returned. That's why we use the async functionality, right? So we're sending a request and we're just waiting for that request to be answered. And when it's answered, we'll handle it then. And then we have the try methods, right? So we have async, then we have the try and the catching of the errors, and then finally, if everything is fine, we're returning the payload. And this says, okay, if the return is successful, we are then creating this page. So it's you're signed in with it says welcome back. You are signed in. It will provide like the user information, and it's getting all of that from the database, right? And this is basically the entire content of this page, right? And I just want to show you. So this is, we're looking into the login page, right? But if we go to the main page, so if we're going to app, where's app? So app here, and then we have a page. It's basically just a collection of components. There is little logic in here, so we're basically adding all of the all of the pages in here that we want to use, and eventually we're just adding a bunch of text in here, but the rest is all linking to external pages that will get loaded when needed. Okay, so running build was successful. Again, it's running a dev in the wrong folder, so we're gonna have to exit out of that and like cd humble devs npm run dev. Okay, so where did we log in to our application? Oh, that was here. Okay, cool. So welcome back. Great. So we have now the ability to post something, which is quite amazing. Okay, so I just want to visit the main page. I wonder whether it will redirect me. Okay, so the main page does redirect me to my profile if I'm already logged in, which I am, which is also great. Just wanted to check that. It's still running a whole bunch of things. It wants to run build again for some reason. Like, okay, okay, it needs to still run its checks and make sure that everything is. What is it doing? Oh, okay, just navigating to the folder. Fine. Yeah, so it again like opened a new command terminal. I already navigated to the correct folder in here, and it now created a new command terminal, and like it still needs to navigate again to the destination. Okay, I'm just gonna test it very quickly. I'm gonna try to post something while it's yeah. Okay, so this is all fine. npm there. So it's gonna write its report. I'm gonna do an npm run dev. And we can even create a shortcut for that. Okay, so it's happy with its result. I'm happy with your result as well. Believe me. Yeah, so it was off to a bit of a rocky start, to be honest, but because it immediately started breaking some things, so I was a bit nervous, but it did eventually get it right. So my first post is here. Let's see if this ends up in the DB. So I'm gonna post, and it says processing, so my post is here. So there's no ability for me to like edit this post or anything like that. Which is fine. So I just want to check whether this is actually submitted. So just give me a second, please. Okay, let me go to Supabase and see if we can find our post. And we can. So let me switch back. Brilliant. So my post is here, my first post. This is just text, so this is not encrypted. At least we never told it that we want this to be encrypted. And this is like a social platform anyway, so these posts are going to be online, invisible to anyone. So there is no point in encrypting these in our database. Okay, perfect. So that works. With that, I think it's time to wrap it up for today. I mean, we reached quite a major milestone today, where we completed the entire documentation, checks, architecture, the PO role, and we actually started with the developer role. I already see that we are missing some things that we will have to add, but I'm gonna let the developer finish all of their tasks and see where they end up. So once all of the stories are completed, if we are anywhere near like the functionality that we need to consider the product to be, or the app to be fully featured, even as an MVP. And then if not, we're going to give feedback to the architect and the PO regarding all of the things that we think are still missing, and let them do the planning for us and create new tasks and stories so that the developer can continue and make our MVP feature complete. All right. So with that said, thank you very much for joining me again on this journey, and I really hope that today's session, at least today's 2 sessions, because this is the second one for today, have been valuable and have brought you closer to being able to build your app, making it fully functional. I really hope that you're going to be successful in setting up your database, getting everything connected, just like I have today. And I'm pretty sure and confident, if you're following the BMAD method, like I've been doing throughout this video, that you'll also be successful in building your app. And if you get stuck, just drop a message in the Discord server, and I'll help you out to the best of my ability. All right. Thank you very much again, and I'll see you next week again for the continuation of our build. So yeah, good luck, take care, and see you soon. Bye bye.